Hello friends, welcome back. Myself Pushpender Singh, and we are going to study your daily current affairs. So today you have 15th of July 2021, and these lectures are basically based on the current affairs, which covers the day-to-day news headlines. And specifically, we are referring the two national newspapers, the Hindu and Indian Express. You should also read these two national newspapers for your preparation for the civil services examination, which is conducted by the UPSC. And you can subscribe our channel on the YouTube for these lectures, which are uploaded on the YouTube on the day-to-day basis, so that you could supplement your preparation with the help of these lectures. So let's begin with the today's lecture. Okay. So first is all about the National Ayush Mission, that is in the short form NAM. So the Union Cabinet basically have approved the continuation of the National Ayush Mission till 2026. So the National Ayush Mission, which is a center-sponsored mission, a center-sponsored scheme, have now been extended for another 5 years, right? So it will be continued up to 2021. So this expansion, which will be applicable from 1st April 2021 to 31st of March 2026. 5 years extension have been given to the National Ayush Mission. Okay, and the scheme involved basically the expansion of the Ayush sector, right, to promote the holistic health of Indians. So that is one of the important scheme for the traditional medicine system, to reach the traditional medicinal system to every corner of the earth in order to provide the holistic and complete the healthcare systems to the Indians. Okay, now this scheme, the old and the traditional medicine system, would be promoted and would be available to the Indians specifically through the Ayush wellness centers, as well as with the promotion and the establishment of medical colleges, hospitals and the dispensaries which are set up, as well as the existing universities, medical colleges, hospitals, wellness centers will be upgraded. And here the cabinet also approved the changes in the nomenclature and the mandate of, the certain other aspects of the folk medicine, specifically to the Northeastern Institute of Ayurveda, right? And that has ultimately led to the changing in the memoranda of association as well as the rules and the regulation for that purpose. The inclusion of Ayurveda, right, within the mandate of increasing, right, the reach of this traditional medicine system to the people would definitely beneficial to the people, specifically to the northeastern India. And it was launched specifically on the 15th of September 2004, and the scheme is basically implemented by the Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. Okay, the objective of the National Ayush Mission is very simple: to provide the cost effective services, right, related to the Ayush, so in which some sort of a universal access to the upgradation of the Ayush hospitals and the dispensaries across the country, right, to set up the Ayush facilities at the primary healthcare centers. That means you will have the co-location of the Ayush facilities at the primary healthcare sectors, as well as the co-location of these Ayush facilities with the community healthcare centers, as well as the district hospitals. The main purpose is to co-locate these Ayush facilities or Ayush healthcare service providers with the primary, secondary, and the community healthcare centers. Right. The mission is very simple: to address the gaps specifically in the health services which are there in our country, specifically the shortage of doctors, the shortage of the nursing staff, the shortage of the number of beds, right, available of the servicing provider, right, everything is shortage. Okay, to provide some sort of a the cost effective services to the people, right, specifically the vulnerable sections of the society and those areas which are far flung. Okay, so under National Ayush Mission, the special focus is given for the special need of certain areas, and that will have some sort of a higher allocation for those areas, specifically through annual plans, so which is being implemented by the Ministry of Ayush with the renewed push from from basically the Ayush medicine system or the traditional medicinal system in that aspect. Okay. Next, the world first carbon border tax was, was basically implemented by the European Commission. So European Commission on the 14th July, right, 2021, basically put forwarded the world first carbon tax. The tax was implemented on the import of certain items or certain goods which are carbon intensive, right? For example, you have the carbon intensive, the steel, cement, fertilizers, and aluminium, right? By the utilization of these, the goods, you will have the carbon emissions. So the tax will be imposed on those items which are carbon intensive, and those are imported by the citizens or by the basically the industrialists in the country, right? It is a part of meeting the broader target of meeting the climate related, the targets. So the border levy, which should be phased from the year of 2026, and these measures, as you know, are designed to protect the European industries from competitors abroad, and specifically also with respect to the climate related, aspects. So this is a transitional phase from 2023 to 25, which see the importers monitoring and reporting their emissions specifically, right, from these carbon intensive goods. So under these proposals, the importers will be required to buy the digital certificates, okay, right, in terms of the tonnage of the carbon dioxide emissions, right, with their imported goods. For example, if they purchase or if they imported the steel or the cement or any other carbon intensive good, they have to represent themselves that this much tons of the carbon dioxide emissions they have, imported from the other countries, and that is required to buy the digital certificates, okay, with that respect. And the importers also, may be able to claim the reduction in the carbon border cost also, right, that if the goods have already been subjected to the carbon levy in their country of manufacture. And some 64 the carbon pricing instrument, okay, have been used, such as the emission trading schemes or the taxes which are in the use around the world, right? For example, in the China as well as in some US states, right? They buy, or they cover only 21% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. So that type of carbon pricing instrument may be definitely cut down the carbon or the carbon emissions from those goods. But definitely we need some sort of a alternative, right, before we completely ban those products. Okay, then this is basically these rules or these phases basically with the comply with the World Trade Organization rules, which is also related to the reduction of the carbon intensive goods in the country, specifically with respect to the unit with respect to the European Union. Okay, next, the world biggest floating solar panel farm was basically revealed in the Singapore. So Singapore on 14 July 2021 inaugurated the world largest floating solar panel farm. Okay, this world largest floating solar panel farm, spanning around the area of around 41 football fields. So you can assume that, right, the area would be very very big, that encompassing around 45 football fields, and that solar panel farm would produce enough electricity to power the 5 water treatment plants on the Singapore, right. The main purpose of setting up of this world biggest floating solar panel plants is to effort, to reduce the uses of the land, because the Singapore is a very small country, right. So land is very scarce resource over there, right. So in that the Southeast Asian city state, the land is not available, right. So first of all, there is a limitation related to the land. Second, to meet the target of, the quadrupling its solar energy production by 2025. Definitely this type of ambitious goal was made by the Singapore to tackle the climate change. So there was two aspects. The one is the scarce land resource, and the second is to increase the percentage of the solar energy production in the country by 2025. So this, the floating, the solar panel farm was basically located on the reservoir in the western Singapore, right? And it will produce around 60 megawatt, peak photovoltaic farm that has been built, by the wholly owned subsidiary of the Semi-Corp Industries. And this solar farm, could help to reduce the carbon emissions by around 32 kilotons annually, right? So this much of the carbon dioxide emissions would be reduced annually compared to around 7,000 cars that will be off to the road. So if that much amount of the carbon dioxide is reduced, right, from the Singapore, that will be equivalent to around 7,000 cars would be reduced from the road annually, right? As you compare this floating solar farms with the conventional rooftop solar panels, the floating one perform much better, right? It has the efficiency that is at the higher efficiency of around 5 to 15 percentage higher than the conventional rooftop power plants, right? Because because of the cooling effect of the water, which are not impacted by the shading off from the other buildings also. So the sun rays are concentratedly, impacted on these solar panels, and that would basically produce the electricity throughout the day. The electricity which will be generated in this floating solar panel park is basically, use around 1,22,000 solar panels. Combinedly, around 1.2 solar panels would produce the electricity that is, that will be suffice for generation or the utilization in the five the wastewater treatment plants in the Chennai, in the basically in the Singapore, and that is basically correspond to around 40, 5 football fields. If you just take in the area, that will be around 111.2 acres of the site where the floating solar panel farm would be revealed, and these solar panels are designed to last for around 25 years. Okay, so their lifespan is around 25 years, and the drones are specifically used because it's a very large area, specifically, the body or water body. So uses of the humans specifically in those sites is remains impractical, right? So for that purpose, the drones will be used specifically for maintenance as well as for assistance and installation of these solar panels, specifically in these water bodies. Okay, so this is specifically the news from the Singapore. Okay, next, the Commerce Ministry have extended the time limit for filing the claims under the Transport Marketing Assistance, right? That was a scheme that was launched by the Ministry of Commerce, right, for specified agricultural products. So in 2019, right, the Ministry of Commerce, Government of India have announced the scheme for providing the financial assistance specifically for marketing of agricultural products, right? Those marketing of agricultural products would definitely boost, those commodities which are related to the agriculture to certain countries, specifically targeting the Europe and Northern America. So for that purpose, a financial assistance would be provided, and under this transport marketing mechanism or transport marketing, assistance plan, the government reimburse a certain portion of the freight charge which have been used and provide the assistance for marketing of agricultural produce, right? So the claims under this transport marketing assistance under this TMA scheme, right, for the quarters, right, that will be ending in June 2020 can be filed up to 31st of September 2021. So that is the time limit which have been extended, right, to file, those claims for the assistance under this scheme. Okay, and this schemes basically cover the freight and the marketing assistance also for the export, of those agricultural commodities by air as well as by the sea. So both the normal cargo as well as by the refrigerated cargo, right, both of these, the export will be covered under this scheme, and the government basically reimburse a certain portion of these freight charges specifically to promote the agricultural goods to the specific countries in the Europe and the Northern America for that purpose. Okay. Next, the railway projects in the Gujarat. So here, it's a more important news that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi would unveil several railway projects and would inaugurate those projects which is dedicated to the nation right, on the 16th July 2021. Okay, so these projects was implemented by the Ministry of Railways, right, which include the newly redeveloped the Gandhinagar capital railway station. As you know that Gandhinagar is the capital of Gujarat. So definitely the newly established or newly refabricated, redeveloped Gandhinagar railway station would be unveiled by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as well as the gauge converted electrified line between the Mehsana and Vareta also will be inaugurated by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Right, the newly electrified line between the Surendranagar and the Pipavav section would also be inaugurated by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi would also flag off the two new trains that is originating from Gandhinagar to the Varanasi Superfast Express, as well as the MEMU train services which connect the Gandhinagar as well as the Vareta. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi would also inaugurate the Aquatics and Robotics Gallery in Gandhinagar, as well as the Nature Spa in the Gujarat Science City during that event, right? When the Prime Minister Narendra Modi would inaugurate those projects related to the Ministry of Railways. Okay. Next, the MOU on coking coal. So coking coal is that varieties of the coal which is being used for the steel purpose or for the steel making. So here the Union Cabinet have approved the MOU or Memorandum of Understanding between the Ministry of Steel, Government of India, as well as the Ministry of Energy of Russia, right? And both Russia and India both will be cooperating, right, for the manufacture of these coking coal specifically that will be used in the steel making process, right? So both countries will benefit out of this MOU, and this will benefit entire the steel sector by reducing their input cost. It will also help in reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions from this steel sector. Specifically, the Russia's expertise will be used, right, in India for the purpose of the steel development, right, specifically for the purpose of this coking coal. And this may lead to the reduction of the cost of the steel also in our country, and to promote the equity and the inclusiveness in our country in order to promote the research and the development in the coking coal. So this MOU would provide an opportunity for both of these countries to establish an institutional mechanism for the cooperation, right, between the energy sector between the India and the Russia, and that will also strengthen the bilateral cooperation between the India and the Russia in the specifically in the steel sector that will reach to the new heights, right? And the main purpose of signing of this MOU is specifically in the steel sector is to diversify the source of coking coal to meet the industrial needs specifically in India and Russia. Okay. Next, the subcategorization within the OBC. So here, the Union Cabinet has approved the 11th such extension, right, to the Commission, which is basically mandated under Article 340 for the purpose of the examining of the subcategorization of the other backward classes in the central list by 6 months, right, and that has been extended, right, the current extension which was given, right, up to 31st of July 2021, but this extension also was extended 11th time, right, up to 31st of January 2021. So this commission was set up, that we are talking about this commission was set up to examine the possibility of creating the categories within the OBC, okay, for the reservation to ensure some sort of a equitable distribution of the representation among all OBC communities in the country. So the Union Cabinet have decided to extend the term of this commission for that purpose, and the proposed extension of this tenure, right, would enable the commission to submit a comprehensive report on the issues of subcategorization of the OBCs, because here the commission would definitely consult with the other stakeholders, specifically for the purpose of benefit of to give the reservation to the other backward classes. So this commission that we are talking was set up under Article 340 by the Government of India on the October 11th, 2017, right? It was set up, and it is headed by the Delhi High Court, retired Delhi High Court Chief Justice G. Rohini, right? So G. Rohini, she is basically the chairperson of this commission. The commission is constituted, right, for basically the studying the feasibility of the subcategorization of the other backward classes within OBC, right, to ensure the equitable distribution of the representation to all OBC community, right. Its objective include working out or to find out some sort of a mechanism, criteria or norms or parameters, right, through a scientific approach for sub-classification or sub-categorization within the OBC, and to identify some caste of the community or subcaste, right, in the central list of the OBC, right, so that the benefit of the reservation should also be permitted to that level. Currently, you know that OBC have been given 27% reservation in the government jobs as well as the central educational institutions, right. The demand for this subcategorization of this OBC, is basically comes from the notion that only affluent community among the caste or among the OBC have included in the central list of OBC, right, and which have cornered the major portion of this 27% reservation, as you know that. Okay, now this subcategorization would definitely help the certain backward community within the OBC to come out, right, with the help of this reservation. So this commission, commonly known as Rohini Commission, because it is been headed by the G Rohini, because she was basically the retired Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, and which has also recommended the complete digitization of all OBC records and the standardization of the issue of OBC certificate for the purpose. So this extension will be valid beyond 37th, to 2021 to 31st of June 31st of January 2022, which will be notified once with the approval of the President of our country. Okay, so she is G Rohini, who is the chairperson of this commission. Okay, next, the development of infrastructural facilities for the judiciary. So here, the Union Cabinet has approved the continuation of, the basically a scheme or the central sponsored scheme, right, for the next 5 years specifically, okay, for the purpose of the development of the infrastructural facilities for the judiciary, right. That will include the total cost of around 9,000 crore rupees for the purpose of the infrastructural development for the judiciary, right. So that proposal or that central sponsored scheme, right, would definitely strengthen the judicial or the service delivery, right, with respect to the judiciary, with the construction of around 3,800 court halls, right, around 4,000 residential units, both the new and the ongoing, for the judicial officers or for the judges and the district and the subordinate courts, right, around 1,450 lawyer halls, around 1,450 toilets complex, and around 3,800 digital computer rooms. Definitely, by this digital connectivity, right, the procedure of the courts would also be enhanced, and that will benefit the common citizens to reach the services or to reach the justice delivery to their point. So specifically, this scheme would be implemented for another 5 years from 2021 to 2026, and that will be followed in the 5 years from 1st of April 2021 to around 31st of March 2026. That will involve the cost of around 9,000 crore rupees, right. Out of this 9,000 crore rupees, the central share is around 5,357 crore. That includes the 50 crore allocation for the Gram Nyaya scheme, right, for the purpose of the monitoring of this, the development of this infrastructure or the digital infrastructure. The Department of Justice have developed an online monitoring system, right. That online monitoring system was developed with the technical assistance from the ISO, right. The Nyaya Vikas 2.0 web portal as well as the mobile application is used for monitoring the physical and the financial process of this central sponsored scheme related to the judicial infrastructure, right. By geotagging these completed and ongoing projects, that will help to monitor, right, the development of those infrastructure projects specifically in the district and sub-district level, to speed up the process as well as to check certain corruption related activities or to check any sort of a leakage with respect to those developmental projects. Okay, then the scheme to promote the India owned ships with the subsidy support. So here it's a more important, right. The Union Cabinet have approved the scheme for the promotion of the flagging of the merchant ships in India by providing the subsidy support to the domestic shipping companies. So it's a very important scheme. The cabinet approved, right, almost 1600 crore subsidy for the Indian flag merchant ships, right. The scheme basically aimed at the encouraging the ship owners to acquire the vessels, right, to participate, in the global tenders, which will also help to increase the jobs in this sector. So the subsidy of around 1624 crore over the 5 years will be provided to the domestic shipping companies, and that will be offered to those who will be participating in the global tenders which are floated by the ministries as well as the central public sector under enterprises. So here the scheme was first announced by the Nirmala Sitharaman, right, in his budget speech in 2021-22, which is a part of a scheme, right? A subsidy of around 1600 crore will be provided to the shipping companies for that purpose. Okay. Now, ultimate aim is to encourage those ship owners to acquire the vessels, right, to participate in these tenders. As you know that as a part of the scheme, a ship that is been flagged in India, right, with that purpose, right, which is based on the age, will also be provided certain subsidy. For example, that's that as per the scheme, a new ship, right, or you can say that a ship that has been flagged in India after 1st February 2021 and which is having the age of less than 10 years of the age, that will be provided the support of around 15%, right, of the quote offered, which is by the lowest bid by the foreign shipping company, right. Similarly, for the ship which has been flagged in India and which is around 10 to 20 years of the age or 10 to 20 years old ship, right, at the time of the flagging, the subsidy support would be extended at the rate of around 10 percentage. Okay, so it is based on the age of the ship, the subsidy would be provided to those owners. So it's very simple, right. If the ship is being flagged in India after 1st February 2021 and the ship is less than 10 years of the age, right, the subsidy will be provided by around 15% of the quote offered, which is being, at the lowest bid at that point of the time. And if the ship is around 10 to 20 years of the age, right, the subsidy will be around 10 percentage, and over the period of the time this rate will be reduced by 1% every year till it reaches to around 10% and the 5% respectively, right, for that purpose. For initially it will be provided 15%, over the period of time it will be reduced to 10%, and for 10 to 20 years of the old ships the initial subsidy will be 10%, it will be reduced to 5% over the period of the time. So 1% reduction of the subsidy every year till it reaches to around 10 or 5% respectively with that respect. Okay. Next, the Northeastern Institute of Ayurveda and the Folk Medicine Research, right. So here, the Union Cabinet have given approval specifically, right, for the changing of this nomenclature and the mandate for this institute, which is known as the Northeastern Institute of the Folk Medicine, okay, as the Northeastern Institute of Ayurveda and the Folk Medicine Research. So here the Northeastern Institute of the Folk Medicine, as the Northeastern Institute of Ayurveda and the Folk Medicine Research would impart some sort of a the quality education, the research in the education and the folk medicine at the Pasighat in Arunachal Pradesh. So it's a more important aspect which has been related to the incorporation of the information related to the folk medicine as well as the Ayurveda. Okay. And the institute will provide an opportunity for the students specifically to the Ayurveda and the folk medicine, not only in India but also to the neighboring countries. So the students specifically will benefit in the medicine of Ayurveda as well as in the folk medicine, right. The other countries, the students like Tibet, Bhutan, Mongolia, Nepal, China and other Central Asian countries will also be benefited out of this move. Now let us understand what is this folk medicine. Okay, folk medicine is basically originate from the primitive man's reactions or attitude towards natural events, right. Here in the folk medicine, the magic and witchcraft played a very important role, And in these societies where the witchcraft and the religious beliefs were of the greater importance, right? The diseases and as well as the health are explained by external factors, not just by medicinal factors, but they are explained by the external factors which is penetrating and harming the body. And here the people's effort to find out some sort of a solution to this disease, right, is basis on these folk medicine, which is being the primitive man's the reaction or the attitude toward these natural events. So here the people's effort to find out these solutions related to the disease, right, which was set up on the basis of this folk medicine. And consequently these traditional societies, their opinions on the disease and the health were born as a part of this folk culture, and for that region the practices related to these issues are basically at the realm of the anthropology, okay, ethnology as well as the sociology. So here this folk medicine will encompass not just the medicinal knowledge but also the knowledge related to anthropology, ethnology as well as the sociology, which will falls under the discipline of other aspects. So it will cut across the different cross cultural or the cross disciplinary subject, which is basically very very important in those traditional societies. Okay, next, the Jharia and Raniganj coalfield. So here the Ministry of Coal Government of India organized the day-long workshop, right, specifically to develop the master plan at the central, Coalfield Limited, which is a Jharkhand-based subsidiary of the Coal India Limited, for the purpose of the Jharia and the Raniganj, mines or the coal mines. So here the one-day workshop was aiming at, the rehabilitation of the affected, the people or the families which are suffering the evacuation or the displacement because of these coal mines at Jharia in the Jharkhand as well as in the Raniganj in the West Bengal. Okay, here the main purpose is to avoid the natural mishaps sometime in the coal mines, that some accidents may occur and the people dies, specifically in the coal field, right? And the master plan was basically drawn to rehabilitate the affected families to the safer location. So here the Bharat Coking Coal Limited as well as the Eastern Coalfield Limited, right, both are the subsidiary of Coal India Limited, have been aiming at the mines in the Jharia and the Raniganj respectively for the purpose of the development of this master plan for effective service delivery as well as to rehabilitate the affected families to the safer location. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. We'll meet again tomorrow for our next current affairs. Thank you.